regime of people who are simply advocating for the political rights of our people, and especially their sons. That was a failed regime displaying itself. So 34 years later, people who have innocently gone to debate our economic rights, a budget, are raided by the same goons, protected by a failed regime. And I want to tell you, it tells you that these are the end times of the regime of William Ruto. They are showing their signs more and more every single day. So we want to say we are with you, All Saints Cathedral, and we commensurate with you during this time. We know those culprits will not be brought to book. We know the impunity that is going on, but God sees all. So let us have faith. The second thing I want to talk about is the finance bill. I want to call on a total rejection of the finance bill. The finance bill is hoping to levy taxes of another 120 billion shillings from us. We cannot afford it. This is money that is not going to help us. The budget is not a people's budget. It's a budget premised on sustaining illegal borrowing and a government continuing its impunity on us. I urge Kenyans, I urge Parliament to completely reject this finance bill. Kenyans can no longer you tell us it is not direct tax to us. We know at the end of the day, we are going to bear the burden of that tax that you put on anybody that manufactures, anybody that imports. That cost comes. So don't try and fool us. Don't try and fool us. The CS had previously promised a budget that he was going to reduce taxation. That's clear. And we all know why. We are alive to the incompetence and the lies of this regime. The third point I would like to make is I was very happy to see my good friend Aden Duale on the Thursday last week when the budget statement was read, acknowledge a very important aspect of our finances. Aden Duale, who as you well know is an insider in this regime, is a CS in this regime, and previously Aaron Cheriot, accepted a very major thing. He said that there has been illegal borrowing and he attributed it to the Uhuru regime period. Thank you, Aden Duale. The assertion we've been making about ODS debt. Now, if that is the case, why does this regime pay for illegalities? The only reason you are paying for those illegal debts that you are claiming exist, and make note, these illegal debts have been even mentioned by the Auditor General, by the Controller of Budget. The only reason this government of yours is still paying those illegal debts is because you must be accomplices. You are together in that illegality, and if not, prove to us that you're not by stopping to pay those illegal debts you are claiming were done by Uhuru Kenyatta. Cut them off today, Bwana Duale. Cut them off, Bwana Badi. Cut them off, William Ruto. Cut them from this budget instead of coming to charge us more taxation through the finance bill. Kindly cut them off to prove to us that you are not part and party to those illegal debts that you claim were taken during Uhuru Kenyatta's period. There's something else Adan Duale said. He said that this regime of theirs, under William Ruto, is not taking illegal debt. And this comes to my fourth point. If you look at what is called the budget revenue estimates, which we are going to circulate copies, those copies are going to tell you that in those budget estimates, according to Article 220 of the Constitution, they constitute the revenue estimates, the taxes the budget is going to collect, the grants and the loans that they wish Parliament to pass in this coming financial year. If you look at them, and we are circulating these copies, you will find there is an aspect called domestic debt, domestic loans, domestic borrowing. In the budget statement last week, CS Bandi said that they are going to borrow 1.03 trillion in the domestic market this coming financial year. I ask you to look at the page, the table of contents of those budget estimates before Parliament stipulate as net domestic borrowing at page 24. When you go to page 24, you will find there is no net domestic borrowing number. It does not exist. It is zero and has never existed. Even in the previous years, if you look at each column, has never existed. So this claim of domestic borrowing being legal, it is not. It has never been. It is never passed by Parliament. And you are doing it again this year. So there are two things I would like to stress, apart from the illegality. One, that we know this domestic borrowing does not exist, and there's nobody really that is taking this domestic debt to the tune of 7 trillion. There's no such money in the market. This is fake. Number two, anybody that is now going to pretend that you are buying treasury bills and bonds in this next financial year, no, it is not anchored in our laws, it has not been passed by Parliament, and you will never be paid. This is odious to Kenyans. We are not sovereign to it. We will not pay you. Buyer beware. It is your risk. I'm telling you, that paper, you will throw it in the dustbin, because this regime will change, and it's going to change next year, and it will not be honored. I advise you, and I advise all Kenyans, do not buy a treasury bill. Do not buy anything to do with treasury bills or bonds. They are fake, completely fake. The fifth point, I just have 6 points. The fifth point I want to make is I saw a comparative so-called budget you put in the media, the people's budget. I don't know people's budget in which people, because my colleagues, and I will say they are my colleagues because we are in the opposition, led by Kalonzo Musyoka, they call themselves the United Opposition, came out with a people's budget. They claim a people's budget. And that people's budget is not too dissimilar to John Bandi's budget. It is about tax, debt, and borrowing. He even proposes the same illegal borrowing, domestic borrowing of 500 billion. Please, Kalonzo Musyoka and my good colleagues, stop letting us down. You're letting us down. Do some basic homework. You cannot continue the same things. You are just doing the same thing as Ruto. There's no difference to what you're proposing. What you're proposing will not change people's lives. Please do some homework and stop letting us down in the opposition. This is not how you're going to conduct the people's affairs, because people are truly in trouble. So, shape up a bit more. And please get that message with the way it deserves, because I mean it with goodwill. I don't mean it in any other way, we are talking about 60 million Kenyans that are having a very hard time. A very, very hard time. So the sixth is very simply this, that we as Safina have been very clear about our budget. Our targets are very clear. We are saying we will never borrow again, and we are not going to borrow from the domestic market because we will not need to. We are going to very clearly not pay this odious debt that you can now see the Ruto regime is claiming to be illegal. We will not pay it. Hiyo hatutalipa. In the year 2027-2028 financial year, it is going to be 2.8 trillion in debt payment. We will not pay it. And because we won't pay it, it means our taxes will be cash rich by 2.8 trillion. When you're cash rich at 2.8 trillion, there's so much you can do for Kenyans. The first thing we are going to do is ensure that primary school, high school, and TVET, the capitations to the standard of living of that year shall be paid. We have estimated that to be just under 400 billion shillings. We shall pay it from that money we are saving from paying debt. So no parent shall take from their pocket money towards primary school, high school, or any TVET program. We shall talk about universities later. The second thing is that we are saying we shall scrap completely SHA, NHIF, or whatever other health levies that are put on Kenyans. Universal health care has been costed at 180 billion shillings per year. So your ID will guarantee you universal health care no matter where you are without any payment from your pocket. That is the Safina government. The third, and this is fundamental, we shall scrap VAT in total as a tax. We shall seek to scrap VAT and replace it with a simple 5% sales tax. That will become a benefit to Kenyans in their pockets of roughly 300 billion shillings back into the pocket. With just those three measures, we intend to inject roughly 800 billion as a stimulus to be kept in people's pockets. They do not have to remove it anymore. And we are hoping that that will spur a growth that will take us to 6, 7, and hopefully by the third year to fourth year, 10% growth rate. But the biggest carrot is going to be the fact that we are not going to borrow domestically. When you don't borrow domestically, you free up capital for innovation, entrepreneurs, people who are self-employed, manufacturers, and everybody else to go and seek and get credit. People are capitalized. Creators, content creators, they will now have money accessed at single-digit rates. We hope we can drive it to about 5%. This happened during Kibaki's time, and it's our intention to drive the banks to a single-digit interest rate to Kenyans. That is where I'd like to end. Thank you very much. Yes, Emmanuel. That's three. Number one, Emmanuel, about domestic debt. First and foremost, let Bundy show you in the estimates where domestic debt is. Because in the budget estimates of revenue, domestic debt does not exist. So that he can assert that it is at a less risk than any other debt. Number two, you know our laws say you are to borrow for development. Domestic debt is the most expensive debt you can borrow. So why would you borrow domestic for development? It is averaging about 10%. Foreign debt at most, concessionary, goes for 2%. Whether it's Chinese, whether it's bilaterals, and it is offered liberally. The only risk is currency, and you can do the variations. I can assure you it is less risky, less costly to Kenyans. Because remember, that interest rate we pay from our taxes. So the burden is on us. So he's telling a lie. The third are these things of debt swaps. Those are all good ideas. Samurai bonds, these are all debts. We don't need debts in this country. We are paying illegal debts. We don't need any more debts. And all those swaps, all those things they've been telling us for the last 3 years, they've never happened. Because our balance sheet does not allow it. Anybody who looks at us can see that we are bankrupt. Nobody is going to do any debt swap with Kenya. They've been talking about it for the last 3 years. It don't happen. So let them stop lying, giving us language. You know, we know the treasury's coffers are empty. We are bankrupt as a nation, and that's why they are seeking to bankrupt us as citizens. So, any other question? Yes. I am rooting for real change in this country, not just the same thing continuing. Change but without change. I am rooting for a change agenda, not a question of one candidate. Those are your own assertions in the media. Please understand that even the one candidate started in 2017. Before that, there were 3, 4 candidates of credibility on the ballot. We are looking to remove this regime. That is without doubt. But we don't want to replace it with a bit of the same thing. I don't think Kenyans can stomach it anymore. So we are looking for real change, not change without change. That's the most important thing. Has that answered your question? So when Kalonzo Musyoka and his united opposition come up with a budget that is similar to John Bundy, that's not change. Continuing the same illegal borrowing is not change. Sorry? I am willing to work with anybody that is clear about change. And I'll tell you my biggest change aspect, that we are not going to pay this debt, illegal debt. Anybody who comes and says we are not going to pay this debt, we are the best of friends. Okay? We are the best of friends. If you can't say it, then you do what you want to do. Anything else? Asanteni sana. God bless you.